Haha, just like that, we are back.
In this episode, we say hello to Rab, Kev Boy has nothing to say, and Craigie Boy has a huge makeover. There's nothing wrong with this cow. This cow is seriously squint, and unfortunately, there's nothing we can do for this calf.
This is the Hoof GP.
And I won't let it rush when I see you dance, and the moment comes when I fall and time goes slow. I fall into you.
This is the new and improved Craigie Boy. Look. Today we've got my another brother-in-law actually along for the ride. It seems like I only ever work with brother-in-laws, doesn't it? This is Yorkie, or Derek. Derek's on a day off on holiday from his usual job, so he's come along to help me because Craigie Boy is in Italy. How's that going? So today we have Roberto on the scraper tractor. Say hi, Roberto. Look at that man. Wow. Is that not a beautiful specimen of a man? Kev Boy's here. He's a little bit sore right now, so I wasn't sure if I was coming. Craigie Boy is on holiday. We've got Derek here as well. So yeah, we've got some Monties to trim today.
Monties, or Montbéliard cattle as I should probably call them, are a dual-purpose cow, meaning that they are much fleshier, they are bigger bodied dairy cows, and that means that their calves are also used for the beef industry. These type of cows usually have good feet, just so long as you keep on top of the routine trimming, which is exactly what this farmer does. The cow you can see me trimming right now is exactly the same as 98% of the cows in this herd. There is nothing wrong with her feet. All that is required are a few minor adjustments and alterations, and then we can let her go. As you can see, she has a slight problem in her white line, but that is what it is. It's a slight issue, and because we're routine trimming her today, that's all it will ever become. When it comes to routine trimming, little and often is key. We want to make very small changes as often as we need to.
See, yes, that bit is soft, but that bit is not going to be taking the weight from this cow. These two bits and this part of her foot are. So that's that one done.
You fix what's broken when you make that smile. So just stay for a little while. So long when you go and I can't get enough.
You see, it does the job all right, doesn't it? The old whopper. These cows do not have bad feet at all, so it's really easy for us here. We've done 18 and put 2 blocks on for very minor things, but I do know that there's a stark or a youngster, I think it's maybe a bullock, which means a young bull, that has some real problems in the back of that there trailer, so we will go in depth with that one. Kev loves a camera in his face, don't you, Kev? What's that? No. Nope, just not going there. What's that?
There's definitely something wrong with this, you know.
What's wrong with it?
It actually looks like it's kind of twisting a bit.
Right, tell me what you think's wrong with it.
You've got a corkscrew going on.
You see? You see? Doesn't trim feet, doesn't really work with animals. He knows it's corkscrew claw.
Is that what it is?
Yep, corkscrew claw, so it's twisting round. That part of her foot there should be up here. See how it's wall horn? See, you can see it more, obviously you normally see it in video, but here, you can see how the whole thing's come round. Yep. And that's the bone inside, it's twisted, so it follows the orientation. So that bone should be flat. So the sole horn should grow in the palm of my hand, but because the pedal bone is squint like that, it's going right round the pedal bone. Where'd you learn that? Say it, go on, say it.
Sheep game.
In all seriousness though, my brother-in-law Derek is absolutely correct. This cow has corkscrew claw. That's when the bone inside the hoof has rotated, and because it's rotated, the hoof horn growing around it also rotates. This can be a very uncomfortable problem for the cow, but it is by no means a problem we cannot fix. Who amongst you also knew what the problem was?
You see, it looks terrible, but if you look at the wall on this hoof, look, it's perpendicular, so it's at a right angle to the base of the hoof. On this one, look, you can't even see the wall because it goes away up like that. Like, so it's going away in like that. So we need to trim the base of this hoof at an angle so that it's square or perpendicular to this part of the wall, which is why if we look from this angle, you can see the base of the hoof is not square to the ground, and that'll force the hoof back this way. As she steps, this part will rotate and hopefully start to rotate the bone back to where it should be, although we will never get it all the way. This trim's definitely not finished though. All of that bruising is because the pedal bone is hitting the ground at the wrong angle, and hopefully what we're doing should stop the bruising process. And a bruise is basically just a little child of an ulcer, so we'll stop that ulcer ever growing into, or sorry, the bruise ever growing into an adult ulcer, if that makes any sense. We're going to reduce the height of this heel now to take the weight off the claw, and again you can see bruising. But we're not going to go too far because the inside of this hoof has changed dramatically from what it should be. So if we come down here again, that looks terrible, doesn't it? But you can see the face of this wall has completely twisted around this way, and we want to get it to twist back. And by forcing these apart, look, it starts to straighten up. Or at least that's the idea. Next hoof. You see, it's likely when a cow's got corkscrew on one foot, she also has it on the other, so it'll be interesting to see if that's the case here. And what do you know? You see that, Derek?
I see this one's the same.
See, some people would trim it the other way around from what I did. They would model it out first. And that lets you see the axial wall, which is this wall up in here that we're talking about being square to the base of the hoof, which does make a lot of sense. Now you can clearly see that wall shoots back at an angle, whereas this one's nice and straight.
By trimming the base of the sole at an angle, every time the cow steps or walks on this hoof, her weight will be pressing down on the ligaments and the skeleton inside this hoof, which hopefully, because we've trimmed the base at an angle, should force the feet apart and back into the correct orientation. It almost certainly won't work entirely, but it will prevent it from rotating even furthermore and really causing a huge issue for this cow. So yes, it may be a slight fix, but a slight fix is what we will take because we are after functional hoof trimming. Now that sounds like an advert, doesn't it? But it truly is what we're after.
This is the wee guy that Robert's worried about, and I can see why, because she's walking, or he is walking, on his tippy toes. So let's get him in the clutch and see exactly what's wrong with this little stirk. It's not hard to see what the problem is. They maybe don't look that overgrown, but this is a calf. It's a baby, it's an infantile, probably less than a year old. These feet should be nothing like this. This is natural shedding. This is the hoof completely dehydrating and falling away, and that's good, but for some reason it's not doing it properly, which is why we've got all of this overgrowth.
I now have the benefit of hindsight and this video to be able to tell how uncomfortably this calf was walking. The farmer asked me specifically to have a look at her because he was worried that she would become more and more uncomfortable and it wouldn't be feasible to keep her anymore. So at the time, I didn't know if she was lame, uncomfortable, if there was a problem with her legs or what. But now, from looking at these feet, I know what the problem truly is. It's really unusual for us to have to trim an animal's feet of this age, especially when they're out at grass. You see, concrete brings about all sorts of problems, so this youngster having issues means it is not the environment causing the problem. However, after trimming the rest of her feet, I'm pretty sure we'll know what the problem is.
Is that not better than it was a couple of minutes ago? It is, by the way. Yeah.
Length equates to height, so yes, her feet did not look hugely overgrown, but just imagine gluing a wedge of wood to the bottom of the toe of your foot. That is effectively what is happening to these animals that have enlarged or overgrown feet. They have a wedge of hoof horn on the front part of their foot. In other words, forcing their toe up in the air and their heels down. It must be incredibly sore in the tendons.
You see, you can see this as a systemic problem because all 4 feet are the same. It's not like one has had an accident. They're all lacking the ability to shed away properly for some reason.
At this point in the trim, I completely believed that these feet were not shedding away properly because her back feet actually aren't too overgrown, but there is still some hoof horn that should have naturally shed away. And again, with hindsight, I now know that it's more of a wear factor than a shedding factor. This hoof horn is not connecting with the ground in the correct way because of the tendon problems this calf has. If you were to say, it doesn't really look like he's doing all that much, I would completely agree with you. When it comes to trimming cows or cattle of this age, the order of the day is as little as possible, but as much as you need to. Really, all we're doing is manufacturing wear. We're correcting the little angles that are incorrect, and we're giving comfort and stability back to the hoof. We do not want to go too far and affect the future life and future health and comfort of these animals. So, do as little as you need to, but as much as you have to.
That does not look fantastic.
But as the saying goes, neither does Craig, but he is functional and he's well worth having. This cow will be more comfortable as a result of this trim, but she is definitely going to need more care in the future to make sure real problems don't arise. And after a little ice skating session, just look at the problem. Her back feet are walking on the tips of her toes and her front feet are pointed slightly outwards and upwards.
Derek says she's walking worse. Thanks, Derek. Please don't come back. So clearly that heifer, stark, young cow, is not walking much better. And that's because there's something wrong with her joints. And that's probably why the feet are not shedding or wearing away properly. There's no issue with the hooves themselves, which means, unfortunately, it's not something we can fix. But we will hopefully have made her more comfortable and not allow it to get any worse, which is exactly what the farmer's aim was. So she's not going to be going through a milking parlour and going through all the rigmarole of being brought into concrete every single day. So she will be out in the fields, which is the best place for her, but she will need more and more attention to make sure that those feet don't get completely out of hand. She ends up in real pain. Right now, she's just a little uncomfortable. So from me and from this little stark heifer, calf, infantile cow, child bovine, thank you very much for watching The Hoof GP. Catch you next time.